Hi everyone, it's Bethany from Beth and Books and welcome back to this book nook, or more accurately our living room. If you're new here or you just don't know, I am moving to Australia in less than a month. This is what my old library room looks like. This is what my library books situation look like, stacked on the floor of my bedroom. So I don't really have a super aesthetic place to film right now, but that's okay. I still really wanted to film this, which is made by Monica Kim, I believe, or at least that's who I see being credited, and it is the BookTube Oldies tag. Now, I don't really consider myself an oldie booktuber. To me, BookTube YouTube was big 2017. That's when I was consuming so much BookTube content. But I have been on this platform for 3 years, mostly consistently making YouTube videos for the first 2 years, and then this past year just work's been a bit intense, but I still really wanted to pop on and film this video because these are the questions, and I think these are, especially towards the end, some things that I really want to talk about, and I just thought, hey, why not, especially in the spirit of Vlogmas, in which I am trying to put a video out every day, but a lot of my vlogs are 2 days combined, so you know, I just don't have enough interesting content to share with you unless you want to see my 40-minute naps I tend to take at 2 p.m. religiously, because apparently 26 is nap season. I feel like we need a little disclaimer, and that is that all of these opinions are my own. I am going to centralize myself. All of these opinions are my own, and it's totally okay if you have your own thoughts and values around things. Totally valid, just like my own thoughts, feelings and opinions are totally valid. And if I disappear, it's because someone's coming to pick up a few things they've bought from Facebook Marketplace. So just a heads up, but let's get straight into this. The first question is, how long have you been on BookTube? And the answer to that is basically 3 years. My first video was published on the 16th of October 2019, which, I wrote this down, is 1,147 days. I can't remember when I found out the answer yesterday if I added the day or not for it to be today as I'm filming this, but quite a few days. So like I said, I don't consider myself an oldie, but committing to something for 3 years is quite good for me. If you know me, I start so many different hobbies and then they, like, I wouldn't say fizzle out, but I just kind of stop doing them and then like reintroduce them and stop doing them, reintroduce them, and BookTube is something I've stuck with because I love it. Second question is, what is your biggest misconception before starting BookTube? And I guess this is a word of advice to anyone who's thinking of doing BookTube, and that is that it's a lot harder than I originally thought it was going to be. I saw reading books and sharing them on BookTube as a really fun thing to do, and when I started BookTube I had a Bookstagram for 2 years already, so it was just like, for me, my natural next step. But it is a lot of work. It's not just the reading, it's the remembering to vlog everything and create content, and then once you've filmed it, the editing of it, and then the creating of thumbnails. And I don't want this to come across as a complaint, because for me, I quite enjoy the artistic artistry that comes along with it. I'm trying to be as natural as I can, so I'm not going to like edit and crop out what I say too much, but I really think that I underestimated the amount of work YouTubers put into what they do, and I knew this going in, but you don't get paid for it. I'll be quite honest, I've made $140 across the entire 3 years, so $140 in ad revenue for hours and hours of work. And like I say, that's not a complaint. I don't do this for a job. I am a full-time high school teacher, but it's definitely a misconception I had. I thought it would just be, oh, pick up a book, read it, have fun, blah, blah, blah. But it does take a lot more work than I originally anticipated. So yeah, just a heads up, if you want to create a BookTube account, go for it. I think that's part of the reason why I love vlogging so much, is it's so freeform. I don't have to overthink and plan out a day for anything exciting. I keep my videos quite natural, like I'm just in what I've been doing house chores in right now. So yeah. This is where things start to heat up and I start to, I don't know, I feel like some people might find this a bit whingy and whiny, and I really hope it doesn't come across as that. It's just my thoughts. So question 3 is, how do you think BookTube has changed since you first started? I think BookTube has become extremely saturated, and I'm one of those people on the internet creating BookTube videos. And I think that a lot of us, and I talk about this later, have bought into certain ideas of what a booktuber should look like, and so it's hard to necessarily be completely unique and what's the word I'm thinking of? Inventive, creative. There's a couple of people who I think do really unique things, like Jack, what's his name? Jack in the Books is his other channel. Jack, it's really gonna annoy me now. I watch his videos all the time. Like, he comes out with some really cool ideas, but then like you see those ideas repeated, and I am so guilty of this. I love seeing ideas and thinking, oh my god, that sounds so fun, I want to do it too. But I think there's so much content out there, and with that comes the cycle. In fact, I'm just going to answer it now. It's technically number 5. What are some books that you were introduced to because of BookTube? I feel like we're all reading a lot of the same stuff, and that's not necessarily bad, it's just how it goes. You see a book, someone talks about it, you're like, wow, that sounds really good, I want to read it. I do that all the time. In answering that questions, the fantasy series, like the Robin Hobb fantasy series, I think I was introduced to through Peruse Project. Same with Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Those are 2 series that were definitely BookTube inspirations. A lot of the romance ones you see around, a lot of thriller books that you see around, I feel like I've seen on BookTube quite a bit. And so from my experience of what I consume on BookTube, I feel like it's sometimes hard to be different. Hopefully I've articulated myself well. I also totally realise that with more people on BookTube, the more variety there is. I guess sometimes it just feels like there's so much, it's overwhelming at times. Going back to something a bit maybe more positive, not that the last point was negative, it was just an observation of mine. What is one of my most favourite BookTube memories? For me, it's actually the COVID diaries. So when New Zealand went into our lockdowns, we had one last year, but the very first one, the main lockdown, talking to you guys was the first time I think I really recognised this as a proper community. I'd heard YouTubers talk about their YouTube community before, and I felt that. And like, let's be honest, I'm not a big booktuber in the grand scheme of things. We've got 1,356 of us last time I checked, which is huge if you imagine that many people in a room. For a YouTube channel, I'm definitely a small YouTube channel. Are definitely a small YouTube community. But that word community, it was in that moment that I really felt it. Like everyone commenting, people who didn't comment would reach out to me on my Instagram, and it was also something that kept me quite sane. It was a time where I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like I'm talking to people, even if it wasn't real people. When I'm talking to the phone, this might sound sad to you, but it does feel like I'm talking to people because I know that somebody out there is going to listen. So even if it's a one-way conversation, it's just like a letter, right? I'm writing a letter to you guys just verbally, and then you will respond from your own choice of form of communication. Oh, that sounds like the people. Book money for the future apartment. Nah, I'm kidding. I am, oh my god, perfect segue, because the next question is, what is something that frustrates me about BookTube? So this is going to come across as negative because, you know, frustrations aren't necessarily good things. Hey baby. Hello. And I sold the tent. Yeah. The tent, the 3-person one. This one? No, not that one. Who's that? The person who bought the tent. Dum dum. They were going to pick up on Thursday. Whoa, I just dropped tea from the... No. What? I can see what you're going to do in your eye. What? I need to blur that out from the video. Oh, no, go back. No, this is a child-friendly channel. Anyway, consumerism. I have fallen this into myself. If you've watched any of my unhaul videos, you will know I talk about it. I now own like two of the two far right columns of this picture. And okay, let me just get my thoughts in line so I can say this in the right way, because I do not want it to come across as I'm better than you or anything like that. Okay, picture this. You're watching a BookTuber's account, and in the background they have their beautiful, gorgeous shelves. They've got the Billy Book shelves from IKEA. They've got the fairy lights, the plants, the cute little decorations, the bookends. It's rainbow shelved or organised by genre, and it looks so good. I bought the neighbour's dog's man. I bought into this idea of, no, I will not buy books just so I have bookshelves like that. I will not buy books just so that I can own them for Instagram photos. I will not buy books just for the sake of having them. But subliminally, I did, because that's what I saw everyone doing. I guess that's the power of advertisement. I guess that's the power of, consumerism, you know? And people don't intend it. YouTubers don't intend it. They love to collect books, and I love that for them, and they love to show them off, and I love that for them. I have absolutely nothing against people who buy books. Nothing at all. But there's got to be something said for when you're buying books at a greater rate than you read them. That was me. I have sold approximately 500 books, I would say. Maybe that's exaggerating a little bit, closer to 400. My collection was quite big. Again, if you've been watching my videos, you'll remember I had like 3 bookshelves full of books. I had a lot, and then before, like when I decided to make the move, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to sell everything. And I have sold so many books, and it's been so freeing. And I still have a stack of like 20 books that I haven't read yet that I want to read. And I know myself, I am not a rereader. I do not pick up a book, put it down, and then think, oh, I'm going to read that again in a month or something. No. I love the library, and I want to use the library more. So why do we keep buying books? Why do I keep buying books? And I guess that's something that, what was the word used, frustrates me about BookTube, is I think subliminally it really encourages you to go out and buy books. And I remember as a kid walking into a library, not knowing what books I wanted to read, and just picking up what looks good, and I don't do that anymore. I guess this is more a thing that's frustrated me in terms of my own buying habits, that I'm pretty, like 100% sure has been influenced by the consumption of BookTube videos. Now, what is your hope for the future of BookTube? This, I feel like you need to hear to the end, because this could be kind of a controversial thought, and that is that I love the BookTube community. I don't think I've received a single hate comment on BookTube. On Bookstagram, I've had a few interesting messages here and there, but nothing too bad. I think generally, as far as social media goes and social platform goes, you guys are bloomin' great. I love every single one of you. Some of you have helped me discover really great authors through your recommendations, or come up with really cool vlog ideas I cannot wait to do, and I love that. However, there is something to be said, and I guess this isn't YouTube, BookTube, this is reading online, the whole reading sphere in the online space, is that I think we're becoming a little bit too critical of texts in a social, societal sense. Please hear me out. Okay, I'm going to try and answer this question again. I just tried to do it and I feel like I butchered it, because this is a point which I feel like I have to tiptoe very carefully with what my words are, because I don't want my message to get taken out of context. So the question is, what is your hope for the future of BookTube? I'm going to try to put this bluntly in one statement. My hope for the future of BookTube is that we don't make authors so scared to write a story that's true to them that they then have to use tokenistic gestures which do more harm than good in their novels. Let me see if I can explain myself better this time. Basically, books in the past, books that were published 5 years ago, books that were published 2 years ago, books published 200 years ago. They all show a moment in human societal history, okay? Like, Great Gatsby, the way that the women are seen as objects. Not saying all men of that time saw women of objects as objects, but that kind of desire, it would be a bit of an ick if that kind of came up in a modern romance novel today, right? But that was the time of Great Gatsby. You go back even further, you go back to like Victorian literature, it's a whole different society. You can go back further and further to see how women were treated in different texts, and you can see how, as these books progress, so do the amount of empowered women characters, female characters in novels. It shows the parallel of how women in real life, on average, are getting, it's less sexist, right? And there's more equality in today's world compared to every other year prior. I suppose also I should say here, I'm speaking from a Western context. I do not know enough about other regions of the world and their histories to comment on gender equity issues in those areas. Okay. Think carefully, Bethany. How do you want to say this next thing? I guess this is like a two-pronged conversation. There's that thing, right? So I feel like we need to be careful that we're not looking back and cancelling older authors or older books, or alternatively hating on people who like those older books, because those do show a moment in time. So then you have the other prong of that, and that is today, in the spirit of all things good, trying to get rid of sexism and racism and anti-Semitic novels and ableist novels and harmful language in novels. By harmful language, I'm meaning so neurodivergent people, how they're often, so making sure that neurodivergent people, are represented, and disabled people are represented positively in today's books. That is all good. However, we also need to make sure that we are not being too PC, that in our political correctness of trying to make everyone happy, we then diminish the power of the author being able to tell their story. By this I mean, in my opinion, it is more harmful to have a secondary tokenistic gay character than it is to have a novel where all characters are heterosexual. So if that gay character is written in a way that's full of cliches and stereotypes because but the author feels like they had to write in a gay character so that they had LGBT plus representation, I think that's more of a disservice to the gay community than it is a service. So I just need to think that we need to be careful. I've had this conversation in a vlog before actually, where I remember reading someone's review saying that a novel was sexist because the book was about a woman who liked to cook, right? She had a bakery store and she loved to cook and provide for her family in what I suppose is considered quite a traditional woman role, and the reviewer was vilifying this book for upholding sexist traditional values. But I think that's harmful because you're telling women that they can't enjoy looking after their family and cooking and baking. And that's where I think we need to be careful. So I guess my hope for the future of BookTube is that we continue being an awesome community. I personally have experienced no hate or anything. Please don't let this be the first. But we also need to make sure that we don't take our desire for constant representation to accidentally make it harmful because we're trying to get authors to write characters in books that they haven't done the research on or something like that. And that's, I guess, that's not on us, that's on the author for not doing their research. But also, I just think we need to make sure that we're not cancelling books just because they don't do every single thing correct. People can learn. I've said this before, I still read Brandon Sanderson books, even though when I've researched and people brought this up for me, he has said some harmful things in the past. However, he has apologised and since then not made the same mistake. If he continued to make the mistake, different situation. But he has not continued to make the same mistake. So people learn, okay? I learn. I have used language without realising that wasn't great. For example, saying people with autism instead of autistic people. An autistic person reached out to me and said, hey, we actually prefer the term autistic people because then it doesn't sound like you're giving us a disease. People with autism is the same as saying people with cancer, for example. Extreme example, but still a valid example that this autistic person taught me. The use of the word Asperger's came from a Nazi. Thank you for teaching me that. I appreciate that, and I do not make the same mistake. And so I would not expect an author to be perfect at all times too. I feel like that might have been a bit of an extrapolated answer, a bit more than I was intending to say, but hopefully I got my point across. I've said it in vlogs before and I'll say it again. I try really hard to make sure that I don't censor myself because it also comes back to this idea of political correctness, and I don't want to have to censor myself on my channel, and I never will. But I'm always open to hear different perspectives and to learn. So I feel like this got a little bit deep and a little bit chatty. So I'm going to sign off before I continue to ramble. Thank you so much for being here and making it to the end of this video. Let me know if you're on BookTube. I'd love to check out some people's BookTube accounts. Also, if you have any recommendations, thank you to those of you who in my vlog gave me recommendations. I have gone through and looked at people, and I have been watching videos and finding some new favourites. So please let me know of any BookTubers you recommend, especially ones who are doing like out of the box cool new stuff. Yeah, okay. See, I'm rambling again. Bye. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.